Come here. Hey, Willow. Can you come up here? Alright, Sasha, you work too. Right here. Good girl. Can you lay down? Thank you. Okay, stay right there. You're gonna be my person to focus on. Okay, I think that works. Thank you, hon. No, we don't eat the musical instrument. Let me give you guys a window. There you go. Hi. Day 3. Can't do this at the same time. Dun, 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 dun. Trying to do both at the same time is very difficult. I will eventually get it. I'm telling myself someday I will sit in front of this and be like, yeah, this is the easiest thing. But not today. Today is not that day. Okay, hi guys. Hi. So, day 3, I have still effectively been doing Qigong. I know I talked about doing painting yesterday, but instead I wrote music, so that was pretty fun. And I practiced some songs with Sean. What you just heard me plucking away on the ukulele is some of the stuff that we worked on yesterday. I can obviously sing that song, but singing and playing at the same time, not so much. It's fun though. I could say that that song is relevant for what I want to talk about today. Actually, hold on a sec. Alright, so part of me getting my life back on track and getting out of a rut, I today went to my first appointment at the Crime Victims Center of Erie. I didn't really get counseling today. I was just about talking about my experiences, which I don't feel like doing quite yet. You might have seen a little bit of it in the day 1 video, but as the counselor said, the messy stuff, I don't quite want to get into that yet. I want to get myself to a happy place. Getting to a happy place means making music and expressing myself, and I have been doing that, so I'm grateful for that. So this is PCAR, P-C-A-R, Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape. I grabbed from the person I met today for an intake a guide for friends and family of sexual violence survivors. So I'm excited to read through this just because just being a more compassionate person for other people, as well as I hope understanding myself more too. One of the first things that I flipped open to, which I did want to talk about, was the word dissociation. I'll read their thing. Okay, those who were forced to undergo traumatic sexual abuse can find the experience too much to bear. Since the victim was prevented from leaving the assault physically, the only remaining option was mental escape, dissociation. Victims often describe it as floating above themselves or concentrating intently on a particular object in the room. Survivors may continue this behavior throughout their lives, and in times of stress, may space out or go numb. Dissociation is a normal response to victimization, but some survivors may find it disruptive in their daily lives and can seek help to learn to manage it. This term, in my past, I have not accepted. I don't know why. I bet you it's because I wanted so much to have control over my response towards certain situations that if I admitted that I just left the building, in a sense, and just kind of went elsewhere to avoid scary and triggering moments. When I find, there's like some quote, I think it's from the Bible. I'm not here to be like the Bible said, believe the Bible. I'm not here saying that, but I recall there was a quote that I've heard that it's like idle minds lead to like the devil's playground or something. The devil. But it basically, in a sense, means like if you sit still, you might start ruminating and you might start thinking about situations. And for me, I call it the rabbit hole. So me personally, when I get triggered by different things like, say, a billboard, or, yeah, it's mainly whenever I go out in the world, because I can't control what's out there. Here in this little bubble, in my bubble here of my apartment, I can control what I see and how it affects me in a sense. Like, I can make sure that there are no pictures of my exes, or I don't have any items that belong to him anymore that would make me think of him, and that kind of thing. Whereas out there, if I see a sticker, I'm gonna be like, my ex-boyfriend. That Okay, so that was a little dose of a rabbit hole right there. Saying that word is kind of a thing. But anyway, and then it's hard to get myself back on track. Okay. I am focused. I am present. I am noticing things around me. So one way that I try not to dissociate, because I have become more aware that I do that whenever I'm triggered. Honestly, like, dissociation now is like when it said survivors may continue this behavior throughout their lives and in times of stress. Yeah, I've definitely been doing that. If I catch myself early enough, I can break out of it. And usually how I break myself out of it is by shaking my head, like literally being like, ugh, I'm going down a rabbit hole. I notice that if other people are starting to, they get triggered and they go off and they hear bombs in the background and remember children dying, like if they start going back into a traumatic experience, sometimes I can, if you play like I Spy, so if you look around you and be like, hey, I spy the color blue. And it's just gonna be like, blue? Where? How? Huh? Oh, is it that blue thing? No. Is it that blue thing? Maybe. Yeah, whatever, you wanna play it. It was the blue ball, by the way. It's always the blue ball, especially for Sasha. Yeah, so that helps. Ooh, I was gonna go in the rabbit hole. I was going to bring up the messy stuff, like when the traumatic experience happened to me and I dissociated, I didn't let myself evaluate that situation until after I was out of the relationship. I mean, I did evaluate it while I was in it. I had called a domestic assault hotline that also dealt with like sexual abuse, things like that, and I talked it through while I was in the relationship. And then, of course, afterwards, I loaded myself with support. I signed back up for therapy. I got myself a BCM, which I'm so grateful to have. BCM, in this area at least, is called Blended Case Manager, and they are there to advocate on your behalf. They have your back. They also get you connected with resources that can assist you in so many areas of your life. You are so depressed and anxious that you can't make a phone call. If you're so depressed and anxious that you can't even make yourself food, there are resources available. If you don't like your therapist, your BCM can be like, hey, you don't need to stick with them. Here's what you can do. Like, they're very good at counseling. I've had a few BCMs throughout my life, and they have been one of my biggest supports, and I'm grateful that that exists in the world. I kind of wish that we all could be BCMs. We could all be advocates, and we could all share resources that really do help one another. But sometimes the best resources and support is just to be a listener, and just to be a space where someone can just exhale. Willow, do you need to exhale? Another thing I've noticed for myself when it comes to dissociation and when I'm feeling triggered, generally, these beautiful ladies over here tend to help me stay grounded. I describe myself as a space case, or spacing out, because I'm stuck in my head, and this is where the rabbit hole is. It's my third eye. It's right here, and I just go. Sometimes to the point where I can't even move. Like, can't even. There was one time I went to get coffee with my boyfriend, and I was triggered by another car being the same make as my ex's, and I didn't voice it because I wanted it to be a good experience with me and my boyfriend. And when I got home, I just kind of disappeared. I think I laid on the ground. I don't even remember. That's like dissociation right there. I do have an exercise ball, and I feel like maybe I just laid on that and I just kind of was. But when I get in those states, I can't even talk. I don't even talk. I just numb out completely. And I kind of can sense what's going on around me, but I just don't even feel like a person. I feel like a blanket. Does that make any sense? I feel like a hollow blanket. I can mold to whatever's around me. I don't care if something injures me, like if my dog steps on my foot, I don't feel it. I don't feel anything around me. And it's not a good feeling. As much as it feels safe, it doesn't actually feel safe. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel... Let's say that. It doesn't feel. So dissociation doesn't feel. And I notice when I'm doing it now. So I'm grateful that I noticed that. I'm also grateful that I know that it's a normal response to victimization, as quoted in that. Because for a while I just was beating myself up for not fighting, not screaming, fighting, and physically getting more violent and forcing that experience to end. Instead, I was more like, if you ever watched Orange is the New Black, when Punxsutawney goes through her situation in the van, and her original situation back before she was in prison. She dissociates. She does not stay present in the activity, in the experience that is happening to her. She disappears. She goes to a safe place in her mind, maybe. She focuses on an object in front of her. I get that. Looking for cracks in the ceiling and just staring at that and waiting for it to just kind of be done. Part of me wants to apologize that this video might be triggering. I also understand that that's me afraid of... I guess maybe I'm apologizing to myself too. I apologize, Susie, if this content is triggering to you, but you have to deal with life. Stop dissociating. Come on, you can do it. You are strong enough. So if you are finding this content triggering as well, I want to remind you that you are strong enough. We are strong enough. And below I'm going to put some hotlines that you can call if you're having issues working through this as well. Maybe that's what we should be doing. When we are triggered, when we find ourselves feeling out of control and chaotic and wanting to run, wanting to go into our minds again, which can lead to some unhealthy coping and no growth. Like, how are we supposed to grow if we keep coping by running away? We cope by finding that strength again, and part of finding that strength is opening up about it and accepting it, because that's what it is. Instead of disappearing, going elsewhere, we are accepting it by speaking it, because it is truth. It is truth. And this whole idea of doubting yourself, Susie, I'm speaking to you again, this whole idea of doubting yourself and wondering if the experience you went through was true or not, you know how it affected you and your life. That is your truth. So if someone is saying it's not true, but you know it's true, hold on to that.